of a couple of Six Nations Scots. Rory Lawson wears 9, Scott Lawson takes 2. Irish's resources are being tested by injuries and suspensions at the moment, and they've been forced into a late change. Elvis Seviali'i failed a fitness test. Kiwi Dan Bowden comes off the bench. On the wings, how good is it to see young flyers Adam Tomstone and Tom Homer restored to the ranks after long absences. Scrum half Darren Allinson makes his first Premiership start. Farn Rautenbach served his suspension. Young Kieran Lowe continues in the second row.
And Wood and Doran Jones were superb against Wasps last week, but they'll have a much sterner test this week. Dermody and Rautenbach are as good as you'll find in the Premiership. Kennedy's the line-out master, but last time he was here at Kingsholm had a torrid time in the LV Cup at the line-out, so he'll be hoping for a big improvement alongside the inexperienced Kieran Lowe. But helping him, Kieran Roach provide good line-out ability in the back row for the Irish, and the Gloucester back row has shades of traditional Gloucester back rows from many years ago.
And it's at 9 and 10 where Gloucester really have the upper hand. Lawson back from international duty, and Robinson really controlled the game last week against Wasps. The centres is all about power. Mappa Sua, well, he'll be running hard, trying to make the gain line, but Fuimana Sapolo, give him the ball, and he always penetrates. And again, Gloucester, for me, have the upper hand in the back three. The experience of Voice, Sharples on his fine game at the minute, and Morgan is a welcome return from injury.
Yes, Ollie Morgan has recovered from the groin problem that kept him out of the win at Adams Park. Austin mentioning scrum halves there. Darren Allinson, his first Premiership start, with Paul Hodgson out tonight with concussion. You might have seen him headbutt Jimmy Gopperth's boot a week ago. He's apparently got the stud mark still in his forehead, Ben, hasn't he?
Yeah, I saw him during the week, and you could count every one of Jimmy Gopperth's studs in that poor face of his.
Well, it's a swift return to the scene of the worst performance of the season so far for the Irish. All involved will hope the 7-try mauling here in the Anglo-Welsh a fortnight ago was as bad as it's going to get. Mike Catt called it embarrassing. Did they glimpse light at the end of the tunnel last week, or was it a false hope? Salala Mapasura is the captain. He was handed the job, given the armband from Clark Dermody in the middle of their awful run. So it's the Samoan who's playing his last season, being lured to Japan at the end of the season after 5 years with the Irish, who leads the side again this evening. And without Bob Casey, who returned to training this week for the first time in a while, they've got young Kieran Lowe, 20-year-old academy player, trying to fill Big Bob's boots alongside the more experienced Nick Kennedy. It's been an interesting season so far for Gloucester, and may get more interesting. But for the New Year's Day defeat away to Leeds at Headingley, 2011 would have been perfect so far. They've won their last half a dozen games in all competitions, including last Sunday, as we saw at Adams Park against Wasps. Wasps, funnily enough, the last team to win here in the Premiership, all of 16 months ago. And if Gloucester are to make the playoffs, then they need to harness this effect, the effect we're about to hear, and that's the Kingsholm effect. Always a lively place, dressing rooms, just before the players were about to run out, so apologies for the fruity language that you might have picked up on, but this match means so much, Ben.
And it's good to see the likes of Hazel and Narroway, the local lads, who putting across to the rest of the team just exactly what it means to pull on that cherry and white jersey.
It's Ollie Morgan back in the fold. David Rose in charge tonight. Paul Dix and Andrew Watson, rather than Andre Watson, have the flags. The TMO is Trevor Fisher. Those who discarded the winter woolies prematurely probably now regretting the decision. It's a cold, cold West Country night. The weekend rain isn't far away, apparently. We are relying on Kingsholm to generate its usual heat, and the home side won the toss, opted to kick off down Toby Booth's slope. And Irish in their usual green have their mitts on the ball, and Darren Allinson starting a Premiership match for the first time since his move from the Blues last season. Fires the ball back to Luke Narroway. Gloucester skipper enjoying one of his best seasons and certainly one of the standout players a week ago at Adams Park, as was Robinson, as was Eliota Fuimanu Sapolu. He might have a bit more scope to express himself tonight. He was more shackled in the wet of Buckinghamshire last Sunday, but we all know what Fuimanu Sapolu can do. And again, Robinson involved early on with those teasing kicks, testing kicks for Topsy Ojo. Half a dozen goes at fullback now in the absence of the suspended Dylan Armitage, and he did so well to run that ball out of defence, Austin. We were right to perhaps pinpoint him at the start of the match, but that's a very confident start.
Absolutely, and we were trying to make the point that this crowd can either inspire you or they can really intimidate you. And that first touch for Topsy there, he's run across the field, he's beaten 2 or 3 forwards, set up good position in midfield. It will give me enormous confidence for the rest of the game, although it's not taking a high ball.
The penalty didn't find touch, but Tom Stone will chase his own kick, and Rory Lawson needed to be back quickly to sweep up.
Just on that point about Ojo, it's really important that the likes of Robinson, when they're putting a ball to him, that they put him under a lot of pressure and they don't kick it too far, so that the Gloucester support have time to get up there, put him under massive pressure. You can't afford to let a runner like Ojo have that much time.
One of the things to do with that, Ben, is that if it's a pre-called kick, then your chase is usually pretty good. If it's a kick off the cuff, more often than not, you've fragmented it defensively in your line, and someone like Topsy will just pick you off with ease then.
Yes, Ojo, Tompstone and Homer, an unusual looking back three for the Irish this evening, but they've got jets. And Tom Homer, first appearance since the second weekend of the season, first start of the season for him. Such a promising young player. Looking forward to seeing how he goes this evening. Fullback Ollie Morgan went in. Didn't really command the area, it was very congested. And here's the makeshift fullback. Ojo, that lolloping run. Reminds me a little bit of Joel Garner, for those who remember their West Indian cricket in the 1970s. Doesn't seem to offer that much, but you try and stop him when he gets going. Just like this man, Thompson. Returned to the Premiership last weekend after breaking his leg, out for over a year. It's Ollie Morgan who's having his defensive fabric stretched. Ball bounces into touch. Topsy Ojo has laid down a couple of very early markers.
He has, and what you look for if you're a pretty agile guy is matchups. You look for space. Look at this defensive line. 2 guys come forward, but there's space in behind. That's one of the forwards there. Just doesn't want to make the tackle because he knows the guy Ojo's too quick. He doesn't want to make the tackle to stay on his feet. And again, look, running at the front row, matchups. Beats one guy, beats another. That sort of control and space could threaten Gloucester throughout the entire match.
Line out was taken in by Luke Narroway. Solid on their own throws against Wasps. They were solid in the set piece throughout. It was the foundation for that away victory. Here goes Ojo again. Should you be wondering, Ojo playing at fullback because Dylan Armitage is serving a 2-month ban after a bust-up with a drugs tester after one of Irish's matches recently. And it was Adam Thompson who dabs down, 23-year-old. Remember, he made such an impact before the injury. Tompstone and Homer really did arrive on the scene with big shouts.
Let's go now, come on. Let's go.
They've been listening to gloomy weather forecasts about the rain that's on its way this weekend. Gloucester's groundsman tells us that it's due to arrive at 9:30, which will suit us fine because the match will be over by then. High ball, Fuimanu Sapolu chases it, but it was too high. Chris Malone gathers. Interesting choice to pick him at 10 today instead of Ryan Lamb. Lamb coming back to the ground where he made his name, but it's Malone.
You wonder whether it's down to the tactics they're going to employ. We've already seen them try and pin Gloucester down into their own 22. You just feel that Ryan Lamb, for all his talents, his game management isn't his strongest part. He's come on leaps and bounds since he moved away from Gloucester, and he's gone under the stewardship of Mike Catt. But Malone's a safer pair of hands, perhaps, particularly when you don't have an experienced number 9 like Hodgson in there to control the ship.
Lost the line out, taken up the front by Will James, stepped in impressively for the injured Alex Brown a week ago and has started impressively here.
And Gloucester's driving play has been superb. In the first 2 lineouts, just good control. You can see being pulled down. You can pull down them all, but only if one player from your side is in there and you're the only man, it becomes a tackle. But if it's a maul with more than 2 of the opposition in, it can't be pulled down.
Once it's a maul,
but it's good control, the way they set it up. They take the time, they don't try and go too quickly, they don't go too fast, they just edge. And they spin out of the people trying to pull it over, and they manage to keep going, but then 2 guys come in, pull it to ground, the referee loses patience, awards the penalty.
When you come around, just get straight off and don't go back in again, okay? Thank you. On the line, Green on the line.
Conspiring to confirm the secret codes.
No, you're on the line.
Can't tell you how much he's looking forward to covering scrum half this evening, should he have to come on. He was busily practicing in training this week. Didn't have the best of games here a fortnight ago in his usual position of 10, and Gloucester again try to work things off the line-out. Andy Hazel, the archetypal man of Gloucester, injecting some pace, as does Narroway. Still on England's radar. He's been with the Saxons in recent weeks. Irish defence thinks they've won this back. Driving over the top, the ball was knocked on, but they weren't far away from burgling it back.
You picked up, then knocked on. You went straight over top. Don't worry. I'll be the judge of that. There's your mark. There's your mark there. Just come back off it. So just come down over that. Just come back off it before we set up. You come forward. There's your mark. Nice and square.
Irish haven't won away from home for 4 months since they scrapped to victory against Exeter. That, combined with Gloucester's form here this season, suggests a home win, but such is the topsy-turvy nature of the Premiership this season, you just don't know.
And this area is massive today. Ward against the weight of Rautenbach, perhaps going slightly early there just to try and counteract that and knock the big man backwards, get him off balance. If Rautenbach settles into a good position, there's no shifting him.
Don't think Irish are here simply to survive in the scrum this evening, Ben. They've been talking this week about being aggressive, about taking it to them.
They've got 2 of the best scrummagers in the Premiership, and Dermondy's attacking, and Rautenbach is a cornerstone. There aren't many bigger props in the league as well.
Ollie Morgan goes ballistic. Bowden gets away with it. Here goes Ojo again. Malone behind Bowden, so it needed to be picked up by Buckland. Cleared away by Allenson in the absence of Hodgson this evening. Here goes Fuimano Sapolu. Everyone looking forward to his battle against fellow South Sea Samoan Salala Mapasua this evening. Lawson takes it quickly, as he has been all season. Robinson links up with big Jim Hamilton. So many exciting matchups tonight. Hamilton's first big muscular excursion towards the Irish defence leads to a Gloucester penalty.
And Irish are the sort of team that will close down in defence, try and fly out the line. Great hands by Robinson to release Jim Hamilton. Not rolling away.
Jim Hamilton made his debut in this fixture back in September after travelling south from Edinburgh. He scored his first try for the club against the Irish in the LV Cup a couple of weeks ago.
Not head on head.
We saw actually in the demo before the game how strong the wind must have been when Ben put the ball to boot. So it'd be interesting to see now how Nicky Robinson kicks into that unbelievably strong wind that Ben faced.
I think it was down to your laziness not running after it, which defines your career, Austin.
No problem.
Certainly know the distance will be absolutely no problem. He's in the kicking form of his life. Nicky Robinson doing that job at Adams Park on Sunday, and he's immediately back in the groove at Kingsholm on Friday.
We talked about Jim Hamilton before, but what a fantastic signing I think he's been for Gloucester. Really underrated player. He's been superb for Scotland. With Alex Brown's injury, he's taken over calling the line out. He's doing a really good job. The first 3 line-outs by Gloucester have been absolutely perfect.
10 minutes gone, 3-0, but it's been a game of thrust and counter for us so far. It's a promising start. Narroway rose high. Buckland was there quickly, but Narroway turned on the cherry and white side. Lawson to Robinson to Hamilton. Familiar battering ram. Nick Kennedy was trying to rip the ball free. Oh, it's been charged down. That's not what Robinson does so well. And no, Allenson wasn't very far away. And it needed voice to sort things out.
Just good concentration, kept his eyes on the ball. Couldn't get too close to the foot. He was a long way away, but Robinson's trajectory not right.
How many?
All the pressure back on Gloucester now. Kennedy can get this ball delivered properly. Dermody at scrum half suggests a drive.
Double quick time.
No, too dangerous.
Irish get the opportunity to square things up. Interesting to see Robinson and Allenson just scrapping there. Allenson was the subject of a tackle that was analysed in some detail this week by the Beaks, and it was decided that Nicky Robinson's tackle on him in the LV Cup a couple of weeks ago wasn't worthy of a suspension, so Robinson plays this evening, but Allenson almost exacted some revenge there on the pitch. We're hearing that Kieran Lowe is putting longer studs in. He's got longer nails.
Did you forget your studs, Ben? That kick was embarrassing, wasn't it? In front of the shed as well.
I just gave it to you to run onto us with my 50p foot.
Now, there was nothing wrong with that kick. And it was only heading in one direction, and Chris Malone square things up. Glenn Jackson and Ludovic Mercier, who used to play his trade down here, have more Premiership points as overseas players, and there are 3 more for the Aussie Malone, 3 each. Gathered in by Nick Kennedy, another who's playing as well as he has for a while.
Yeah, important to take the ball from the kick-off. So many teams lose focus after a kick-off when they score points and the opposition comes straight back down and kick a penalty. They'll be disappointed with the drive, though. They needed to get some parity in the forwards. Gloucester making all the running in that department at the moment.
Yeah, Stowers was forced into emergency action. They were backpedaling. South Sea Islander managed to sort things out, but it's Gloucester possession. Eliota Fuimana Samolo, it needed a quick ball, and it was. Robinson to voice, looking for support. Wriggles into the 22, continues to roll. Support was there from the forwards to drive him further on. Fuimana Sapolu taken on by Doran Jones. Tackle was made by Kieran Roach. It's all a little bit tight on this near side. Fuimana Sapolu resets it. Lawson to James. Kingsholm finds its voice. First time either side has really threatened the try line. The Irish defence, though, holds its firm line, 15 metres out. Robinson runs straight into Chris Malone, and he's held up. Tackle affected by Jamie Gibson on that occasion. Still Gloucester go. Voice almost wriggling away. Lawson, Fuimana Sapolo, head down. Important tackle from Dermody, but still the threat. This is Lawson to Lawson, two Scots combining. Lawson again, trying to keep the momentum. This is Molinar, that was Mapasua, and it was uncompromising. Nothing wrong with the tackle, but Irish were offside in their desperation in defence, and this should be a comfortable 3 points.
A superb tackle by Mapasua to stamp out that attack that all for the world like the try was going to come for Gloucester. It flies out of the line.
No.
You can see the eyes facing inwards, looking for the ball coming towards him, and completely blindsided by Mapasua. Molinar, sorry.
This is where it all started.
Great pass by Sapolo.
Tackler was slow.
Quick hands.
We had 4 in.
Voice just needed a bit of support. Didn't fancy going 3-on-1 against the Irish defence, so he did the right thing, held the ball up. Good recycling by Gloucester. Certainly started the brighter of the two teams.
Tom Voice relishing the opportunity to start a match at Kingsholm. It's been a while for the former Wasp. Gloucester back ahead. And again, it's the Welshman Robinson. Gloucester 6, Irish 3. And pretty much midway through the first half, it's been non-stop so far.
Yeah, but it's around the contact area, please. No, carry on.
Nothing wrong with Gloucester's energy levels at the moment. They haven't had long to recover from the win in the wet at Adams Park. Just 4 days effectively in between this one and that one. That's not really long enough, professional players will tell you. So there's been some careful management from the coaching team. But they are firing on all cylinders at the moment. And Irish, who've used Ojo effectively to bring the ball back out of defence, do so again. Allenson to Malone, who's more of a game shaper than perhaps a game breaker in the mould of Ryan Lamb, but he's in there to do a job tonight, to push Gloucester around. But if you're talking about pushing play around the pitch, there are few better than the man who executed this kick.
Nick, I think we've seen Topsy Ojo take 5 kicks now, and I think he's only returned 1 with a kick. Didn't kick it very well, but his natural instinct is to run. Now, as that pans out through the game, if Gloucester can get to him early enough, they'll be able to turn him over in the midfield. They could get opportunity from that. Their coaches will have spotted that, and it'll be a message for half-time.
Move! Not talking again.
Irish line out. Buckland throws. Finds Kennedy at the front. Only Marco Wenzel has won more line-out balls than him so far this season. It's Will James who's penalised.
Let's go. There's your mark there.
Easy to forget actually that Will James is a Welsh international. He won the last of his 4 caps in the World Cup, 2007 against Japan at the Millennium Stadium. Since then, the likes of Alan Wynne-Jones have taken control of the Welsh second row, but when he retires, he'll be able to call himself a former Test match player.
And Kennedy, very athletic, gets up quickly. There's nothing wrong with that. When you're up in the air, that's the problem. It's a bit like the scrum. You've got referees who've never done that skill. And he hasn't pulled the guy down. He's just made sure that as they've landed, neither of them have gone over and should have been playing.
Here goes Hazel. picking up the ball at the tail of the line-out. Robinson whips it out to Fuimano Sapolo. Mapasua broke out of the line, but did enough to disrupt the flow of play. In fact, did more than that. Irish have won back possession, and here is Mapasua captaining the side again this evening. Gloucester at the moment, I think it's Charlie Sharples who's down injured, which is significant because he's the right wing, and that's the area that the Irish were trying to mine. Ollie Morgan noticed the gap and stepped across quickly to block it up.
Take the line again, line's yours. Time off, Matt.
Austin, you've been busy with your bits and pieces. What have you noticed?
Well,
so
you
to speak.
you mentioned Mapasua, and he really has been very destructive. Let's have a look from the other angle. He really zones in here on the tackle. Now, this is a big risk manoeuvre, but he gets in there, hits him with a big, massive hit, puts him to the floor. But on the outside, had he have got that ball gone away, that is an almost certain try for Gloucester. Now, that is a risk you take if you leave the line. We've seen it quite a few times with England. Shantae Happy left the line against Wales. They went on to score. And it's one of those things, you get caught in two minds, but if you get it right, and this guy has on a number of occasions so far, it pays good dividends.
Having said that, the one time he got it wrong was when Fuimano Sapolo missed out the centre, and that was when Gloucester made their break. So you've got to pick and choose your time to do it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Six Nations taking a break this weekend, so if you're missing it, tune into ESPN Classic every weekday evening and you can see what it used to be like when it was just the Five Nations. Penalty to Gloucester. And first significant lecture from David Rose, deliberately pulling down the maul.
Well, it's not the first time he's given a penalty for that. Gloucester are having a field day in the driving mauls, and Irish really struggling to get to grips with it.
James Buckland.
Both teams are trying to drive mauls, both guilty of the same offences. Let's cut it out, okay? We'll run over there, we've got another one here, no more. All right, that's enough. Both teams are telling them exactly the same.
Well, he called over Kieran Roach, but I think the replay suggests that it was Buckland who had his big mitts in the sweet tin.
Time back up.
Doesn't make any sense whatsoever, but you know what I mean.
You don't need to do it the same way, okay?
You've got the sweet tin on the mind. Have you been off the sweets for a while, haven't you? Been off the biscuit tin. You're looking fit.
A couple of cheeky chocolates last night, but this is what I was talking about.
A good initial leg drive gets it going, but then they get spun out, and Gloucester do that really well. And Buckland there loses his footing, and once he loses it, he thinks, well, I'll just give the penalty away anyway.
David Rose may well have seen Kieran Roach before that anyway, but either way the point was made by the referee. And Gloucester will test that Irish defence at the rolling maul again. The last thing Irish can afford to do now is bring it down. They don't have to for the time being because Scott Lawson has found it in some space. Mobile hooker. Here's another Scotsman, Jim Hamilton. Of cherry and white tartan around these days. Here goes Lawson, who adds to the number. Nothing Scottish about Eliota Fuimano Sapolo, however. Lawson back to Robinson, the Welshman. Again, Irish defence in that situation is strong and insistent, but Hazel rolls towards the line. It's the closest Gloucester have been so far this evening. Paul Doran-Jones was there. This is Lawson again. Back from his cameo appearance in the Six Nations a week ago against Wales at Murrayfield. Hazel, the latest to try and stretch out. Narroway gives it another go. They're nearly there. They're nearly there.
Don't put him in!
Where are the gaps?
No, 2-2!
How alert is that Irish defence around the fringes, perhaps over the top, looking for potential weaknesses, and it's been found. Oh, it's such a difficult job trying to plug the holes in those tight areas. The try has been scored, and it was Narroway who twisted and turned and eventually found the whitewash.
It's been coming for 10 minutes, hasn't it? The start was this line-out drive, and Gloucester's domination here. I haven't seen a team dominate early on with a line-out drive when both teams are pumped up so much for years. They're having it all their own way. It's almost like a training run. They come out, Lawson explodes out, some going forward, and the forwards just kept going forward. Every single forward that carried the ball, Jim Hamilton there, carrying it, getting on the front foot. They eventually get down to within the line, and you just knew it was coming. How much are London Irish missing the likes of Big Bob Casey, Stephen Armitage in that physical confrontation? If they don't get the upper hand soon, it's going to be a very long night for those forwards in green.
Simplest of conversions. It's 13-3. It's been an ever-present so far this season. And the cap that was discarded to score the try is now back on. Again, we were talking about his influence with the club last weekend, Austin, but the kind of player that might be on Martin Johnson's wider radar with the World Cup coming up. Now an early change here. Andy Hazel has been replaced by Akapusi Angera, so clearly an injury problem as he takes the consoling arm of Chalky Meek. The Gloucester manager will get Sarah to do some work, find out what's wrong with Andy Hazel, but Angera's on.
Necessarily looked like an injury to me. I wonder whether he's had a bug this week. He looked...
Oh, this is Molinar, strong through the tackle. Fuimana Sapolu, and he was just waiting for the right moment to deliver the pass, and he waited just half a second too long, and then the ball was knocked on in slightly odd circumstances by Angera. Never in the right position to take that ball. The break from Molinar that threatened much in the end comes to nothing.
Carried back.
Bowden. Gloucester's defence made sure that the break went no further. Allenson with the box kick, with the misdirected box kick straight into touch, and Allenson gets the Austin treatment.
Just holding Dixie for me, please.
We're hearing that Andy Hazel woke up this morning not feeling too well, so Dr. Ben's diagnosis was absolutely right. It's more of a bug than anything muscular.
I actually lip-read what he said, but I can't repeat it as he came off.
Again, stop closing. One each side.
It's the kind of thing you might talk about when you and Durders and Austin and Pete dissect the match on scrum.com. You can get away with a little bit more on the website, so perhaps if you log on to scrum.com at the end of the match, Ben might tell us what he actually said.
Still don't think you can use that word.
That's fine.
Now let's see where play has been forming for much of this match, and well, 69% of it has been in the Irish half, and significantly nearly half of it in the Irish 22.
Apart from Ojo, you can't think of anything where London Irish can take any heart out of their performance so far. It just looks like we're almost conceding that they're not going to win this game already.
George Stowers has had a physical game. You're putting a lot of tackles defensively down there, and it looks like he's the only person who's standing up to the pack, in particular Will James.
Allenton takes the free kick quickly. Mapasua looks for territory, but the ball will come straight back at them because this is Morgan.
Don't go forward, Reds.
Homer goes backwards.
Keep coming, green. 5, keep coming. 4, green.
No score at Kingston Park, by the way. Big game in the northeast tonight. The Falcons against Exeter. Keep you in touch with that one throughout the evening. They kicked off 15 minutes later. This is Dan Bowden, the Kiwi who was whistled off the bench late on when Sevialiti pulled up lane, and then the ball was knocked on by Ojo. Took his eye off the ball, perhaps as he was being chased down by Angera. Either way, it's another opportunity for the home side, and now they have the penalty for hands in the ruck. And someone is going to see yellow. Clark Dermody. David Rose just confirming with his touch judge.
Yeah, but we're going early. Number 3's going early.
Just Voice gets pulled over. I don't think it's his hands particularly. I think that Dermody has just paid the price for too many indiscretions by the Irish, and it all starts. Ojo takes his eyes off the ball, thinking about where he's going to run with it when he's got it. Voice makes a really good pick and go. Dermody lying on top, doesn't get away quickly enough. He moves his arm, he doesn't pull the ball away, but the fact that he was lying in there in the first
When you
place.
come down, if you get there, just come back off and we'll start again.
It might have been Kieran
So if you feel
Roach.
too close, just
Adam
come back,
Tombstone.
go back again, and then you won't have to touch them.
Adam Tombstone.
That's what he likes to be called, Tombstone.
It's gonna be, yeah?
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. Yes, it
Are
is.
you two now
You're trying to
arguing
stitch
over
me up.
whose mate he is?
We've had 2 now, so get used to the time.
You could argue he just didn't release in time, couldn't you?
He's not missed one yet. Double trouble for Irish. Yellow card, and it cost them 3 points immediately.
Dermody lying on top. Pulls his arm away to get it away from the contact and gets done for ripping. I think it was a penalty for lying over the ball, but he certainly didn't rip away, which was the yellow card offence. So he'll feel he made every effort to let the ball come out. He's been punished anyway.
I think we heard David Rose say number 1 with a question mark at the end of it. It was clearly in his mind immediately, but it was Austin's mate Tombstone. Oh, this is Voice on the charge. This is the try scorer, Narroway. Gloucester are really beginning to fancy this. These are fairly grave moments for London Irish because they are very much on the back foot at the moment. It was an even opening 10 minutes, but the last 20 have all belonged to Gloucester. Here goes Voice again, who's beginning to find some space. Throw back to the old days, Tom Voice. Fuimana Sapolo Robinson in lots of space. Hamilton, a little juggle on the ball, but he held on to it, shuffled it onto Nick Wood into the 22. Critical moments in the grand scheme of things, you feel. Already with a 13-point lead, a one-man advantage. Opportunity here to really lay down a marker as half-time approaches. This is Ngera. Fijian, who had a hand in the LV Cup rout a fortnight ago, and that might be running through the troubled minds of Irish supporters at the moment.
1 side entry, number 1.
But
Thank you, Dixie.
Irish have been reprieved by some offside at that ruck.
Over there's Mark.
Update from Kingston Park, by the way. A couple of penalties. Jimmy Gopeth and Gareth Steenson has swapped them, so it's Newcastle 3, Exeter 3. They'd have played about 20 minutes up in the northeast. Interesting to see Dan Bowden kicking to touch, not particularly effectively, but anyway, Austin.
Guys, you talk about experience, and Tom Voice has got it. Watch this. He backs himself and he gambles from the kickoff. Watch what he does. He sets off. The ball could go either way. He picks his chance. This is experience. He's been at many kickoff, and through he goes. It's great reading by an older winger, having a very good game.
Be quiet.
Kennedy gathers in the air for the Irish.
Red 4, move, Red 4.
Again, the ball has gone directly into touch off the boot of Darren Allenson. The second time in pretty quick succession he's done that. And if he's looking for sympathy, he's looking in the wrong place.
At least I nailed my second kick. I think the pleasing thing for Gloucester, though, is they're playing with such good balance. The forwards are battering their way over the gain line, and just as London Irish think another forward runner is going to come in, it's a decoy runner and the backs are opening up. And it's that balance that's so difficult to defend from. You don't know where Gloucester are going to attack you next. Is it going to be a driving maul, forwards running, or is the backs going to have a go?
Two bold men linking up, Lawson and James. There's a Lawson with hair. Finds Robinson. Always keen to play at pace, particularly when Rory Lawson is at scrum half. He's really added an energy to Gloucester's game in recent months. They're playing with so much more confidence. It's a real scrap for the top four, but this lot are definitely heading in the right direction at the moment. Irish desperately trying to repel them, but it's a defensive effort for them at the moment, and Jamie Gibson was at the centre of the latest one.
Yeah, he's been impressive actually. Every time he makes a tackle, he's straight back to his feet and just going forward, trying to make as big a nuisance of himself as possible.
It was Narroway who took the ball into contact, and therefore he who didn't release it when he was tackled.
He's released and he's held up.
Buckland making up for his penalty earlier on, gets onto the ball really well, doesn't commit to the tackle, so he's allowed to do that. Those big, short arms, plenty of muscle in them. You're not going to move him off easily.
Doing Narroway a disservice. He was involved, but I think it was Peter Buxton, if it went to court, who would have found himself in trouble. He was the one who conceded the penalty.
Thanks, Matt. Got it. Take the line. Take the line.
5 minutes to half-time.
Sorry, numbers.
Be a very handy 5 minutes for the Irish to keep scoreless here. Going 13 points down, and they might still fancy themselves any more scores, and it starts to look a big gap. Tussle for the ball. The two sixes involved, and it comes back on the cherry and white side. This is Molinar gathering the bouncing ball, linking up well with Fuimana Sapoli. This is Morgan. He's got voice outside. Morgan did very well, took the tackle from Malone and decided, rather than to play the killer pass, he'd hold on to it, but he held on to it just a little bit too long.
Tackle complete. On the 5.
And Bowden didn't expect to start this evening. Set to have his tracksuit on, but he was whistled off the bench when Sevier-Lee failed that fitness test.
Yeah, it's a good move to get the break going. Morgan backs himself, he's got a release there. Can't get back to his feet.
There's yours.
Needs to either make an immediate offload, replace the ball and let his supporters drive over the top and clear it out.
Receiver, you move. I'll do it again.
Shortened line-up, one at the back by Kennedy. He'll be with us tomorrow when we're at the Rep to watch Bath against Northampton on ESPN HD. Allenson taken on by Stowers. Award over for one of Irish's 2 tries in the win at the Medeski back in September. Barely threatened the try line so far this evening, though. Allenson to Malone. This is Thompson.
And Kira's work rate's been absolutely superb. 3 big tackles in the space of 20 seconds.
Kennedy heads up. Thompson waits, just had to check his run a little bit, but hangs on to possession and half breaks the line. Allenson flips it out to Malone, who finds Bowden. This is Mapasua. Great hands to find Ojo, who has Homer in support, and well, Homer is quick. If they could have got the ball to him, it would have been interesting. There goes Rautenbach. Allenson again. The Irish trying to pick up the pace. Shorn as they are of the services of Clark Dermody.
Just not committing enough of the Gloucester players into the breakdowns though. Every time they get the ball out, Gloucester have a full defensive line. They're being really strict and keeping that line solid.
Easily their best phase of possession of the match. They decided to come back for players diving over the ball, coming through the side.
Thank you, Chris.
Number of offences, and David Rose could take his pick, really. Clark Dermody is back on, and I think the decision will be to go for goal.
The Gloucester coaching staff will be pulling their hair out. They had a great defensive line. The forward dives over the top of the breakdown, and suddenly, from a 13-point lead at half-time, you could be going in just 10 points up, and all the momentum starting to swing back to London Irish.
Now, anyone who watched Tom Homer before his injury at the start of the season and the back end of last season will know that he could almost backheel these over. He has a prodigious boot on him. But it's his first appearance since the second weekend of the season. It's his first start. They say he's nerveless. We're about to find out. Wallop on the way. He is nerveless, and he gave it a wallop. And it's a bonus 3 points for the Irish. All hands to the pump defensively, but they're going to go in at the break 3 points better off than they might have hoped to have been.
And when you're in the away dressing room here and you haven't had a good first half, but you're still in the game, you will discuss that and you'll say, look, yeah, we haven't played well, but imagine what happens when we do start playing well. We're only 10 points down, we'll get back into this. So really, really key penalty.
Much of the first half has belonged to the home team. Luke Narroway's try emphasised that point, but Homer's penalty right at the death means there's still a lot to chew over, which we will do at half-time. 16-6 at the break.
Full English here tonight, and the teams are coming out for the second half in a rather lacklustre fashion from London Irish. They have got it all to do against Gloucester, who are in almost total control. Let's hand it back to our commentators, Austin Benedict.
Thank you, Mark. Yes, largely English, bit of Irish as well, who enjoyed that Premiership winning feeling again against Newcastle, ending a run of 6 defeats in a row, 10 in all competitions. They hoped they'd turned the corner a week ago, but they've never found life easy at the place the locals call Castle Grim. And they are going to have to work very, very hard to turn things around in the second half, particularly given the statistic that tells us that this lot have won 7 of their 8 matches this season when they've been ahead at half-time. They don't often relinquish the lead.
Newcastle at home. Newcastle aren't the best travellers, and that's who London Irish turned their fortunes around. It was a bit of a false dawn. When you've had as bad a run as London Irish have had, it takes more than one victory to get that negative doubt out of your mind when you're playing at a place like King's Own.
I don't think we should take anything away from Gloucester, though. They are a completely different side in the second half of the season. Precise, exact, they've got good energy, and they've got people now in Fumayonu who can break most defences.
Actually, if you could combine these two side seasons, Irish's at the beginning and Gloucester's at the middle and the end, then you've got a championship winning side. Once again, though, it looks as if Irish are struggling to take on what was a very promising start to the campaign into the bit after Christmas. Anyway, long way to go in this match. And there's plenty of firepower in that Irish side to suggest that they can mount a comeback in this match. They'll have to play better in the second half, and they'll have to play more of the match in Gloucester territory. Lawson clears away. Perfect opportunity for him to get the frustration of Scotland's performance last weekend out of his system. Salala Mapasua having to work hard to hang on to the ball, and he didn't release the ball, or indeed Tom Voice. And the first penalty goes Gloucester's way. David Rose involved.
It's a good box kick from Lawson. And Voice with a fantastic chase. And just see, as he's at the breakdown, he's bossing his blockers around, making sure that big Jim Hamilton's in the way, so he's got a clear kick, puts the perfect length of kick up, Voice underneath it, and Mapasua gives away the penalty for lying on top of him.
As Lawson's been his usual industrious best this season. Player who gets better and better. Beautifully tapped back by James, but actually tapped back to no one in particular. It was picked up by Jamie Gibson. An Irish flying forward through Stowers. This is Malone. This is Ojo, who had Homer outside. Malone there quickly to form the bridge to allow Allenson to release Dermody, whose 10 minutes in the bin did not prove to be too painful for the Irish. The scores were 3-3 at the end of his sin binning. Allenson, Mapasua. Here goes Dermody again, man who began the season as captain, former All Black. Allenson. Will James is down injured. This is Homer, who gets away, finds, oh dear me, if he could have found Ojo, there'd have been real trouble, but it was an important tackle from Sharples. Gloucester have conceded the penalty, but they might be grateful that that's all they've conceded.
No, he's never looking inside, so no way. What are you doing? Shot. Shot.
And today, because Solosi Tangi Thakimbao broke a bone in his hand in the final few minutes against Newcastle a week ago. Still just 20, such a big future ahead of him. Very nearly led to the perfect start to the second half for the visitors. As it is, £3 remains a distinct possibility, although it's not the easiest of kicks for Malone. He's 33 now, one of the more experienced Premiership players around. It's 7 years since he lost the Premiership final when he was a Wasp against Bath. One kick early in the first half. How will he do early in the second? Oh, he judged it well. 16-3 down and a man down 10 minutes before half-time. They're suddenly back in this, the Irish.
And the penalty given for a bit of holding in back play. There, Buxton just wrapping his arms just in behind the contact, stopping the support player from getting on the shoulder as the tackle was made for the offload. Came from a missed tackle from Fuamano Sapolo. I was just about to say that Gloucester's accuracy in defence had been really good. A lot of good tackles, and one miss. London Irish get back to within 7.
It was a good restart from Nicky Robinson, but an even better take from Nick Kennedy. And Stowers again rips possession back. He's had a mighty game trying to stem the tide for Irish in the back row. Here goes Allenson. He's picked up by first half replacement Akapusi Ongera, who came on for the poorly Andy Hazley, if you're just switching on.
Carry back.
Malone. Ollie Morgan. He's got runners either side. He runs straight up the middle. Tackled by Roach. Lawson finds Robinson. Back inside to Lawson.
That's fine.
Robinson gets the ball away to the other Lawson. Scott. Robinson. And again, Stowers involving himself and almost to good effect, but it remains Gloucester possession.
Tackler, stay there. Back to Jova.
This is the hooker Nick Wood, England's spare man in Cardiff a few weeks ago. Plenty here surprised that he's not won more England caps. Perhaps like Tom Voice at the time when he was in his prime. Here goes Molinar, chunky centre, so difficult to bring down. Ojo did his best, but he needed plenty of help from his mates, and still Molinar drove on. Lawson to Robinson. Tidied by Hamilton.
Hamilton's had a big game.
Robinson to Lawson. Narrow way, lovely ball. Morgan charging for the line, and the ball was back inside to Akabusi and Guerra. Swift, sound handling, and Gloucester have their second score with the flying Fijian.
So many players playing well for Gloucester tonight. Fantastic try, set up by a great break by Voice. Not only when he gets tackled, look at the delay on his offload. Doesn't try and offload straight away. We carry on, and suddenly a long ball in midfield, cuts out a couple of players, an overlap on the outside, and brilliant vision from Ollie Morgan, feeding back to Nguera, who has had an amazing game since he's come on for Hazel. His work rate has been as good as I've seen. Defensively great, and as all good number 7 should. Great support lines, picking up on the breaks.
That had shades of England, didn't it, at Twickenham? The quality of the support always meant that there were options available, even when space was being closed down by Irish's defence. Oh, he remains immaculate with the boot. He should take those boots and put them in a box at the end of the season, because they're magic boots, and that might be a significant score. 23-9.
You talk about significant scores. Have a quick look at this pass. Really quick look. Made by a hooker, Lawson. That is the pass that makes the try. A brilliantly timed pass from a hooker.
Well, there were so many good things about that Gloucester move, and Lawson's involvement was one of them, as was Molinar's early on, and resuscitating a move that looked like it was dying after the initial break by Voice. He's loving being involved. It really looked for a long time as if his career might be petering out. He just wasn't getting a look in here, but now he is, and we're seeing what he can do again.
Incredibly hard player to play against. Ben said it earlier on, difficult to tackle. You know, sometimes you like the really big guys because they're easier to get down. He just had this uncanny knack of staying on his feet in the tackle. You could hit him with everything and he'd stay up.
The thing is, you usually thought you'd got him as well, and then at the last minute he'd an extra couple of steps and get through that contact.
And he's making sure that Gloucester aren't missing Leslie Vinocola at the moment. His season's as good as over after surgery on a dislocated shoulder. A man who's been musing on the precarious nature of the job he is in this week, and musing on the frustrations of the job again this evening. Early engagement at the scrum. Taken quickly. Gloucester beginning to get a taste for this. Molinar to Morgan. Charlie Sharples chases Ojo down, and Sharples makes sure the makeshift Irish fullback is shuffled into touch.
Look at the body language of all the Gloucester players. They want to get going, they want to keep playing. They know they're in total charge, and now the target is the bonus point for that fourth try.
Time off.
Austin, what have you got?
Well, as we watch Charlie Sharples there, it's the work rate you're talking about, the body language. Look, this, as we showed earlier, it's a one-on-one tackle miss, which is probably one of the only ones early on in this half. As he breaks through, Homer, we have a close look. He's got the ball in one hand. If he shifts the ball into two hands, he might give himself a chance. But what stops the try is Sharples' pace. He turns and catches him within 2 strides. That's work rate, that's desire, and that's exactly what you two were saying about Gloucester. You can see it. They're all over the field. They're hungry for action. They want this game to go on for an hour.
He acquitted himself really well at fullback last weekend, and we saw some of those defensive qualities there playing back on him, because James Simpson-Daniel, we remember, was injured a week ago. That injury not as serious as we first thought it might have been. Whether Simpson-Daniel's in the side or not, Charlie Sharples always will be at the moment, because he's playing so well. 6-6, by the way, the half-time score from Kingston Park. Falcons against the Chiefs. Fuimana Sapolu providing again the target for the forwards to run onto.
I think the real difference is every time Gloucester have taken the ball into contact, they've got on the front foot. Even if like there, they've run into a big tackle, the extra couple of steps, whereas London Irish have stopped on the gain line and getting no momentum at the moment.
Peter Buxton's having a very good game, as is Lawson. Releases Robinson again, who chases his own kick, and it just would not control itself for him. And it was knocked on. But again, Buxton to Lawson, quality running and the passing from the forwards, and then the little bit of magic from Robinson that nearly brought the try.
Scott Lawson is having a superb game. We rave about Scott Brits and his ability with ball in hand. But we saw the last try, fantastic pass that Austin pointed out, and there, deft little offload to release Robinson down the wing.
See, that's what forwards should do. Don't bother with this scrummage malarkey. Get out there and play rugby. Look at it now, he's got a push.
Cynics might say if they were scrummaging properly, they wouldn't have the energy to run around like young waifs, but they were the old days, Ben.
Gloucester front row doing an admirable job up front, putting good pressure on London Irish.
I can only hope you're hearing the noise back home, because it's just been raised several decibels here at Kingsholm. Kingsholm, Friday night, under the lights, the shed packed. Can't imagine many better starts to the weekend, unless you have Irish in your blood, in which case it's probably a little uncomfortable at the moment. Solid Irish scrum, did well. This is Mapasua, who will continue to give his all in his final season with the club. Joe Ansborough on the way. Kennedy has to be careful that he's not being caught, but he turned well. Malone lit his cigar before he got the ball away, but got it away in time. Here goes Morgan. Here goes Fuimana Sapolu. Probably holding of the ball in both hands. Akapusi and Guerra, the man whose try appears significant at this moment, but still time left. Robinson again chases his own kick. Voice hairs after it as well, and Allenton was across, and little more he could do. And just look at the determination amongst the Gloucester team to get the ball back and to get on with things again. We're looking forward to seeing the battle of the line-outs, and at the moment it appears to be going Gloucester's way.
Well, this is ideal driving position for Gloucester. 10 metres out, they just want to settle that initial surge from London Irish. But the penalty given for blocking. You'll be really careful when you lift that you don't prevent the defenders from getting to the ball carrier. Let off for London Irish. The scrum had done really, really well for London Irish. Got them on the front foot. And Kennedy's carry just meant that the kicker was always being dragged backwards. And it's a game of pushback at the moment, and Gloucester are winning it.
Ball was taken in by Will James, who has again had a very, very effective game.
We're making changes, so don't worry, okay?
Now changes, fresh blood. Paulika Ion is coming on. Fawn Rautenbach and Clark Dermody are coming off. Alex Corbiciero's on as well for the Irish. And that's Dave Lewis, who takes over from the immaculate Rory Lawson. Back on the bench after starting against Wasps. Enjoyed his best game of the season against the Irish in the Anglo-Welsh a couple of weeks ago. Nicked by Gloucester, but won back by Stowers, who in adversity has worked as hard as anyone on the pitch.
And everything going right for Gloucester. They get their line-out defence spot on. Kennedy goes back on the lob. The throw's just a little bit fading away from Buckland. Gloucester get their hand in, put an attacking scrum in a really good position.
Stowers getting a run at the moment because Chris Hallett-Afia is serving a 2-month ban for a tackle on Shane Geraghty that the men in suits didn't like. A couple of suspensions that Irish are having to deal with at the moment. Hallett-Afia's and Dylan Armitage's, plus the injuries. They won't need excuses making for them, but the cloth is being stretched.
That's what happens, isn't it? When you're under pressure, you've lost a series of games. Sometimes it can just get a bit much, and they're a passionate club, a passionate team, and can spoil over occasionally.
Pause. He's telling it to slip on that side.
Germany's left arm just taking some icing. There's Corbusiero. What a match he had for England last Saturday against Italy, and Castro Giovanni. First test, his debut, and he played the full 80 minutes as well. But Irish have conceded the penalty.
He's just been cursed by the commentator, Corbusiero. Good pressure by Nick Wood. Doran Jones being congratulated for doing his job. But you can just see all the Gloucester players just playing with so much enjoyment. You can't see that on the faces of London Irish.
Pressure came on, his feet went backwards as well.
Doran Jones against Corbusiero. Something to keep us warm over the final quarter of the match, or for at least as long as Doran Jones stays on the pitch.
We've been told, mate, something we can do about it.
Got Rupert Harden, the Australian tight head, on the bench, Gloucester, but they might keep Doran Jones on for as long as possible. Through the gloom and through the mist, the Welshman Robinson misses for the first time this evening. Malone with the long restart. Robinson has again the opportunity to launch Gloucester into enemy territory.
Touch. Fine there. Straight in.
It was touched in by Ollie Morgan, but was it going out on the full anyway, though? That's the question in David Rose's mind. Well, the decision is that Ollie Morgan knocked on, and it'll be an Irish scrum.
Good decision by David Rose. His assistant thought that the ball might have gone out on the full, overruled.
Three more games tomorrow. Harlequins against Sale, Leicester against Wasps. Wasps without Tony Hanks, of course, lost his job a couple of days ago. And our match, we're at the Rec, we're making the short trip down the M5 for the game against the Saints. Nick Kennedy, who's in the middle of that Irish scrum, will be in the middle of it with us tomorrow. And he remains defiant. It's interesting to see Dan Bowden kicking long from hand rather than Chris Malone. It's the Kiwi given the job of finding touch.
5 and 6, please change.
One of the squad's chirpier characters, as you can see. He was busy telling anyone who would listen what his thoughts were on the Super 15 yesterday morning, which started today. Very poor start for Danny Cipriani's Melbourne Rebels. An absolute walloping against the Tars. More changes. Richard Thorpe is on. Kieran Roach is coming off, as is Kieran Lowe. Gary Johnson has come on for Lowe.
That's fine, it's a contest.
And it was Johnson who rose highest at the line-out. Had to wait until last weekend for his first Premiership start of the season. Here goes Stowers, who's been ever willing this evening. Malone taps the ball on to no one in particular. Just not gelled for the Irish in an attacking sense so far this evening, as Carl Hogg and Brian Redpath watch their charges execute this latest defensive operation.
It's a tough ask for now for Nick Kennedy. He's lost his two primary line-out jumpers,
Your space, Irish.
Roach and Lowe, both off the field. He's now got to very quickly organise two new guys as jumpers on the field.
Against the Gloucester line-out that has gone well so far, and they've won it with Hamilton.
No, nothing. Hold.
Irish line-out, which is normally so secure, they've lost 4 of them this evening. And this is Scott Lawson, who on his own ball has lost just 1. Ojo took that well, but then got knocked back.
Hold.
Allinson, who, well, I'm losing count. That's the 3rd time, I think, that he's kicked directly into touch from that position. Paul Hodgson missing this evening with concussion.
No, it's not.
Allinson, normally such a reliable player, he certainly adds a bit around the breakdown, but as a kicker, he's left a bit to be decided this evening.
Yeah, that's the experience that Hodgson gives you. But what Allinson does give you is, like you said, Hodgson very rarely breaks around the fringes and holds onto the fringes. What that means is, if you think about Ben Youngs, when he breaks round, he holds the fringes and takes up so much of the inside defenders off his fly half, off Toby Flood. And much the same way, if this guy gets round the fringes, Allinson, he can take those, those inside defenders away. That's why I was surprised that Ryan Lamb wasn't playing, because you take those inside guys away, he's the sort of player that can crucify you.
Your head going out there.
Yes, Ryan Lamb remains an option on the bench.
That's your mark.
Do you think, Oz, that maybe Ryan Lamb, that if Allison's kicking's not been that good today, that perhaps they thought Ryan Lamb's kicking game's not that great, we need to get Chris Malone on the field and have a decent kicker?
Yeah, but fair enough, but Chris Malone hasn't kicked throughout the entire game. Hasn't even kicked for touch.
Roster 19 is another Scotsman, Alistair Strokosh, replacing Will James. Big favourite down here, and we've seen this evening exactly why.
He's had a great fortnight. It's a big part of why Gloucester won at Adams Park for the first time in a number of years last week.
Tom Voice offering himself in midfield. Dave Lewis continues to feed the burly forwards. Lawson the latest to go on the charge. This is Buxton. Talk about clubmen and influences.
He's legal. No, it's not.
Buxton was very close to the Man of the Match award last weekend. And Scott Lawson is somebody who might be very close this evening. Robinson, Foymanu Sapolu, and that was all about the presence of George Stowers. Gather the ball and lose some teeth, or knock on and don't. And I think in the end he took the decision that most of us would have made.
Yeah, saw him coming, didn't he? Just out the corner of his eye. As this ball comes across, if you're in the midfield and you get a floated pass like that, it is the absolute worst nightmare.
Especially against London Irish, that are known for any long ball in midfield, they'll hinge in.
They were trying to use big Jim Hamilton on a decoy and nobody took him because Jim was sort of trotting at 2 miles an hour.
He was trotting with intent, though, I think. What about the battle between the centres, between the two Samoans, Foymanu Sapolu and Mapasua?
It was that initial page with the metres gained.
Pause. Again.
Two players who is almost double the metres and having a great game.
Thank you, Andy.
Mapasua, who more often than not wins the Samoan 12 shirt, though. That's the shirt that Gumana Sapolu wants with the World Cup on the horizon.
You see the benefit though, not only here but at Leicester. You know, in the England internationals race, and Mike Tyndall's not playing, your go-to man in the midfield who gets you over the gain line. When he's away, pretty much like at Leicester, Manu Tuilagi's playing, and same here, Furumayanu, he's going to get you over the gain line almost every single time he touches the ball. He's been very impressive in the last 2 games we've seen him in.
"15 minutes to go." 23-9. It remains doable still for the Irish, but they're going to have to show try-scoring ability that they've yet to show us so far this evening. Here goes Malone. Perhaps he's the man to unlock the box. He was hauled down by Wood. This is Tombstone. Not really featured much since the opening burst at the start of the second half. Buckland, the latest to have a go. Gonna have to score a try shortly, the Exiles. And this is as good an opportunity as they've had for a long time as Corbisiero goes a-fishing. Gloucester don't concede many tries. They've got one of the best defences in the Premiership, and it's being tested here. Controlled at the base by Paulika Ion. This is again Thompson trying to use his weight. Used his time off to good effect to bulk up, to chisel up. Again, Ion adds his Romanian weight. Similar situation to the one that Gloucester scored their opening try from, as Corbisiero again slides towards the line. Allenson thinks about going on his own. He perhaps should have released. I'm not sure he had the opportunity to get the ball away. Ion may well have been in the way, but they've lost a couple of metres, but they're still going forward with Buckland. There's Ion again. Stout East European. Richard Thorpe waits in support, as does Stowers. Corbisiero will have another go himself. Fantastic for England last weekend. It's all about his club tonight in the West Country. Buckland with some help from Johnson. Strokosh was the latest Gloucester man to man the ramparts. Well, it's patient, but Gloucester think they've won it back. Akapusi Angera steps over it, and indeed they have. Was that the moment for Irish to grab a lifeline? Was that the moment that Gloucester made sure they won't?
That's the sort of defence that you'll rely on for the rest of the season, and you'll think back when you're under the cosh for the rest of the season. You'll say, remember that time we held Irish out? We need that now.
He shipped 15 tries in 16 hours of Premiership rugby, and it's defence like that that leads to statistics like that. And dear me, Sapolu was not far away from gathering that ball, and as a result of his presence, the ball was knocked on, and an enormous roar around this fabulous West Country amphitheatre. They know the significance of that passage of play.
Yeah, it was make or break. Mapasura almost got the outside line. Ollie Morgan had to step in, shut the door, and if he could have got the ball away, could have caused a problem. As it was, everything going right for Gloucester tonight.
Change at hooker. One of the best players on the pitch this evening, Scott Lawson, makes way for a familiar face. Frenchman on for the 160th time for Gloucester in the Premiership. And this was the defence that held out so well.
Dave Lewis it was with the turnover, so we've got a hooker throwing a missed pass for a try. Your little scrum half getting in there, turning the ball over at the breakdown. And it's just, you know, it sets an example, doesn't it? Sets an example to the other teams for the rest of the season.
Yeah, the Irish just looked like they ran out of ideas. They just started hammering around the breakdown when at one point Tom Homer was out on the wing unmarked. But no one was looking outside. It looks like they're just lacking that leadership, perhaps from the halfbacks, to make the right decisions when they get a try-scoring opportunity.
Change at tight head. Doran Jones off with what looked like a slight knock. Rupert Harden, the Aussie, on. Harden started the Anglo-Welsh win here a fortnight ago. It's nowhere near as bad a performance by the Irish as it was that day, but it still looks like it's going to end in defeat. What might be on their mind is a losing bonus point. They do need a converted try, though. Corbisiero against Harden. Harden holding in, but it's still Gloucester possession. Robinson flings the ball to Morgan, who puts boot to ball and finds Ojo. A little echo of what we saw at the beginning of this match, with Ojo threatening from fullback. It was well won back by Richard Thorpe. He really needed to scamper on the floor to get hold of that. Allenson remains the option at scrum half. The only other option they've got is Ryan Lamb, and they wouldn't choose to bring him on at 9, I suspect. They've got the penalty. Options, Ben. Well, they've already made up their mind. They're going to have Dan Bowden try and drill it as close to the corner flag as he can.
You talked about Ryan Lamb. You've got 10 minutes left on the game. You're 14 points down, you need some tries. Surely you bring on a player who's capable of creating something out of nothing.
Nicky Robinson's not done much wrong, but with Bowden having missed the penalty, he's handed possession back to the Irish in a difficult position. It'll be a 5-metre scrum.
It stings that, especially when you've had such an all-round team performance. You really do feel like you've let your teammates down in that situation. Not that it ever happened to me, but I'm sure Ben will be able to tell us that it does.
Half an hour to go, by the way, at Kingston Park. It's still Newcastle 6, Exeter 6. Tempted to think if the Chiefs win that one, while not being mathematically safe, they'll be as good as safe. But it's still 6-all. Half an hour to play. They kicked off 15 minutes later than us. Meantime, back to the business of the evening. A very important try for both sides. Important scrum, rather. Punch-up in Gloucester on Friday night, is there? James Buckland and Olivier Azam.
Both have to go to each other before we get round the scrum, right? So let's get on with the game. Act like adults and let's get on with it, all right? Thank you.
Azam's nearly a pensioner in his final season for the club. James Buckland, the former Wasps and Leicester man. Only Adam Eustace and Andy Hazel have played more times in the Premiership than the French hooker. Free kick to Irish.
It was an early shove, but you just think that Gloucester won't be too unhappy with that. Sam winding things up, he's very good at that.
Stowers gathers the free kick. Converted try to bring Irish to within losing bonus point range. They may yet get more if they can convert this position. Buckland was the one to take it in. Jamie Gibson drives back over the top. Kennedy waits. Kennedy goes. With a little bit of help from Gary Johnson, who shoved him on an extra half a metre. Allenson as they switch it. This is Gibson. Floppy mop of blonde hair. This is Ion, the Romanian. Been here before, and for a while, and Gloucester held out. What can Irish do to alter the pattern? Corbisiero. It's all hustle and bustle and determination. Stowers again. Picked up by Thorpe. He's opened it up interestingly. Can go either way. Is it time now to show it to the backs? It is. Malone. Mapasua linking up with Bowden, but just look at Gloucester's defence. Fuimanu Sapolo was in the middle of that latest repelling operation. Allinson. Here goes Gibson again. And he's driven backwards, driven all the way back up the M5. Still, though, somehow the Irish hang on to the ball, but they've lost 10 metres. Allinson. This is Stowers. They handed out man of the matches in losing causes. He'd be a prime contender for the Irish. Here goes Bowden for the line. Oh, he needed some support. Might still be there. He's got to let go of the ball. He was on his own, and Irish will get possession. And what's more, Gloucester are losing a man to the bin. Dave Lewis is gone. And the Cherry and Whites will spend the rest of the match with just 14 players on the pitch. They've gone quickly. This is Mapasua. Ball won back by Tom Boyce. And a little cameo of the game there. A rare opportunity for the Irish, and it's not been taken. Cleared away by Robinson, and that is defence of the highest order.
There's your mark.
Every single one of them a hero this evening. Oh. Somehow, Corvisiero was allowed to gather the ball and move on. Into the final 5 minutes. Harden's efforts so close to dislodging the ball. Malone, Mapasua. Irish stretching every sinew for a converted try that would mean they would at least leave Kings home with something. Ojo, the man on the floor.
Stay there,
Allinson, the scrum half waiting. Malone, this is Buckland. It was Robinson again in the middle of the defence. Bowden. Irish have a penalty coming. Azam was offside. They don't need the penalty. They want the try, and they've got to continue this momentum. This is Tombstone. Possession.
It's the defensive effort of Gloucester. The heart of that. Ongera, and on Austin's turn to choose man of the match today, but surely he's got to be the top of your list, Oz.
Ongera's right up there, Benya, right up there near the top. I haven't made my mind up yet, but he's right up there. He's got a chance. As has Jim Hamilton. Jim Hamilton's had an excellent game as well.
Monumental game. All the big forwards, and it's the same last week.
Difference Joe Ansborough might make to Irish's attacking threat next season with Mapasua going, Ansborough's coming in. Not identical players, of course, they offer different things, but at the moment, Irish just tending to tread water in this position. There's no lack of effort, but you just don't know where the try is coming from. Gary Johnson, the latest to take it up, but it looks like they've been hammering on this door on the 22 for an eternity.
Again, Stowers has been tremendous, but turned over by big Jim Hamilton.
Gloucester might start to think about a fourth try of their own and a bonus point score. This is Ojo.
No, leave it!
A reminder for the duration of the match, Gloucester down to 14, Dave Lewis spending the duration now in the sin bin. Here goes Homer. This is Stowers. The support of Johnson, who was up the quickest, the bridge there, but still at this stage of the match the defence from Gloucester is ferocious and it wins back possession. Charlie Sharples was right in the middle of that, but Irish somehow won it back.
Tackle release!
You mentioned the bonus point there. I actually think Gloucester will be disappointed if they don't get it, because they've been so on top tonight.
Here goes Mapasua, trying to get the ball away out of the back of his hand. Yes, they really, you would have thought, certainly with the possession and territory, have expected more than the 2 tries they've scored so far. Luke Narroway and Akapusi Ongera as we enter the final minute. It's been a breathless end to the match, with defences largely on top. Luke Narroway going as strong as he was at the beginning of it, and Narroway hanging on to possession. There will be one last opportunity to buy the winning ticket for the Irish. It's not going to change the outcome of the match, but it might yet bring them the point that they've been striving so hard for over the last 10 minutes. Oh, dear me. They've missed a kicker this evening. On that occasion it was Ojo's turn. It's not been the scale of defeat that it was in the LV Cup. That's been a plus for the Irish, but the manner of it will leave cause for concern. Who can stop Gloucester at the moment? It's now 7 wins in a row since New Year's Day. They're up to 3rd in the Premiership, and there are significant rumblings in the West. They are heading in the right direction, and they're into the playoffs.
Absolutely, Nick. We've seen them twice now in the last 2 weeks, and once in the wet conditions at Wasps, and here today at Kingsholm. We've seen the contrast in their game. They've got it all, but the thing that they've got more than any other side I've seen so far this season is they've got that team attitude. They're precise, they're controlled, they're enthusiastic, and their energy is infectious across the team. And that will hold them in good stead and could well see them through to the end of the season.
Well, the light at the end of the tunnel for the Irish proved to be a fleeting one. They might have ended their run of defeats against the Falcons, but it's another defeat this evening. Seventh now in 8 Premiership matches. Update from the northeast. It's Newcastle 6, Exeter 9 now we're hearing, with about a quarter of an hour to go there. Confirmation of the score here. Latest score between the Falcons and the Chiefs. We're going to up sticks and head off to the Rec tomorrow. Bath against the Saints. Quinnsale, Tigers, Wasps. How will Wasps do without Tony Hanks in charge this weekend? Sean Edwards taking control temporarily. Saracens against Leeds to end proceedings tomorrow. And this is how the Aviva Premiership table stands at the moment, assuming that Exeter get that win, and a win that may well be enough to keep them up for a 2nd season of Premiership rugby next season. Look at the gap now between them and potentially Leeds at the bottom. Gloucester up to 3rd. They've leapfrogged the Saints, and with a game in hand they're hot on the heels of Saracens and perhaps even the Tigers as well. They've had a fabulous 2011 so far. They've won this one by 23 points to 9, and we can hear from Sarah down below.
Thanks, Nick. Well, look, you all look like you were hungry for action tonight. How important was it that you backed up the Waspin with a good, solid home performance?
Yeah, extremely important. It's been the story of our season, really, consistency. And we're starting to string a few games together, even winning away from home. And it's all about momentum, and we're just trying to build something good happening here, and we just want to build week in, week out.
Yeah, and another solid defensive effort. You look like you could attack from any part of the pitch. How close are you getting now to that complete control performance that Brian's looking for?
Yeah, I still think we're a little bit away. I think tonight the game was there to be had, and I think accuracy in our attack wasn't as what it has been throughout the season. But you know, when you haven't got that accuracy, then you rely on your defence. And I think, you know, the last 20 minutes they were camped on our line, no tries, and that's just credit to all the boys.
Disappointed not to get that extra bonus point?
Yeah, definitely, because as I say, I think it was a chance missed. But, you know, it was a bit of a scrappy game, and it's a sign of a good team when you can win ugly.
Thanks for your time, Luke. Cheers.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Well, Luke Narroway and his mates have got some tough away trips between now and the end of the regular season in May. Franklin's Gardens, the Stoop, Welford Road, Vicarage Road. So you suspect that the 4 remaining home games here against Bath and Newcastle and Northampton and Sale will be so important, but if they can win those and perhaps pick up a few points on their travels, then Gloucester are on their way into the top 4. They are beginning to gather momentum at just the right time, and it's another win this evening against the Irish, who remain in a little bit of trouble. They were beaten by much the better side this evening, and we'll have all the reaction and analysis